Mike Sills. Afternoon. Never a dull day here on the National Football Show. By the way, man, I think we're sparking up a relationship with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Who would have thought? A Gator and a Cane. It's working. I don't know, man. 2 days in a row now, we've gone back and forth a little bit here, and we're going to get to the false narrative that's out there that the Eagles offered Gardner-Johnson more money. It's not true. It's not true. Now, that's his side of the camp saying that. So we'll get into that here in a minute, but today is opening day of Major League Baseball. I grew up a baseball fan. What's a bigger week or day? I don't know how you can quantify it. Opening day of Major League Baseball or the first week of the NFL season? What has become a bigger day? There's nothing like, for me as a kid growing up in the Northeast, baseball is king. Baseball is king, man. I know other places down in the South, football is even bigger. I get it. And now I'm a huge football fan because the news is mostly football anyway. But opening day used to be huge. Opening day used to be the day where optimism coming out of spring training for your team. Doesn't matter if your team is good or bad. Whether it was the Royals or the Pirates or the Yankees or the Phillies, Cardinals or Red Sox. A lot of optimism. That used to be the American sports day, opening day baseball. Okay? Opening day baseball. Now, I got to feel the opening week of the NFL is bigger. The start of the NFL season, right? The start of the here's why I say it. We're going to move on here in a minute. Here's why I say it. Because baseball has become too regionalized. There's only certain pockets in the country that baseball is still king. Cincinnati, Boston, New York. No one would ever tell me the Giants are a bigger draw than the Yankees. I mean, St. Louis, Chicago. Bears are probably still bigger in Chicago. Philadelphia, it's a great day of sports in Philly, but it's not like the opening game or the opening weekend for Eagle football. It's not even close. Baseball has lost that place. That's why people look at baseball today and go, great, it's opening day, and then you move on for a while. Then you look and see if your team is competitive, and then you get into it, and you're like, okay, last year, the Phillies had a hard time filling the place early in the season, and all of a sudden they started gathering steam after the firing of Girardi, and what happened? Everybody caught fire with it. Baseball's lost the place here a little bit when it comes to football. Football's 24/7. I agree with you, Brian. It certainly is. All right. We're going to have a Howie Roseman conversation today because people have revised history of our friend here, the general manager of the Eagles. We're going to get to that here in a minute, but if some of you follow me on Twitter, and I suggest many of you do, at Dan Sileo Show, Gardner-Johnson and I have been going back and forth, and I have agreed, and I agreed with what Seth Joyner said right here on the program. You can go back and watch the interview, JAKIB Sports, or you can watch just the clip. You can go back and watch it. And I do believe that there's now a narrative because the Eagles have bled it out that Gardner-Johnson may have been an issue in how he handled himself in the locker room. You don't really have to have facts on that. You can just throw innuendo out. And it stick. Especially in a city like Philly. They throw innuendo out. You see, the difference between me and them, I'm not a journalist. And I don't parade as one. As a matter of fact, in my 35 years on the air, I've never paraded as one. I never said I was, and I refuse to be one. Nor would I want to. Because they're liars. If you're a journalist and you have an opinion, you're more of a columnist. You should be writing op-eds, not calling yourself a journalist. Journalists are supposed to give you both sides of the story without opinion. That's broadcasting and journalism 101. I went to school for journalism at UM. I even know that. Get this, I went to school for journalism at UM, and I don't call myself a journalist. I think Gardner Johnson's pissed off that the people in Philadelphia, some, not all, had this narrative out there that he was some sort of cancer dude, attacking his integrity. You should stand up for that. I tried to, but I also told him this. Hey, dude, it's a losing battle. It's a lose-lose because you don't play in Philly anymore. The best thing you can do now is just ignore it. Don't keep it going. Hey, you and I want to have conversation. That's cool. I'm open to that. I'm not really one of these guys that has to have friendships with all the players. I don't really give a shit about that because sometimes it could jade your opinion. I have a tough time already with some of my ex-teammates when I have to make a critical comment about them. You know, I get called on the carpet by guess who? My daughter. Oh, I see. Guy screws up, but you defend Michael Irvin. I go, yes, yes. So again, me being friends with players, if it happens, it happens. I don't sit around trying to be. Just over the years, we've been very fortunate enough to where we have been making friends with people. All right. All that being said, I'll say it one more time. Dude, let it go. CJ, you're a great player. You're not overrated. Eagle fans are butthurt, but so are you a little. No, you wanted to stay in Philly. I get it. You got a great opportunity. I like Dan Campbell. I think that the Lions are going to be a formidable team. If Golf can duplicate what he did last year and they do a good job in the draft, I think the Lions are going to be formidable. How about this? I'll make this statement to you, CJ, and all concerned over at the NovaCare Center. If Jared Goff duplicates what he did a year ago, they'll be in the playoffs. And they'll be a team that's going to be a formidable team. You got to make some moves at linebacker. I think you have one of the better moves. Pete Bristow from CBS says that the Lions made one of the best moves in signing Gardner Johnson. So again, you're in a position where you can make another impact on a football team like you did in Philadelphia. Okay? Dude, I think that I'm with you, Jesse. I think that Lions team could win the North. I think they're better than Minnesota. And if Aaron Rodgers is not on that Green Bay team, shit, I think Chicago might be better than Green Bay. So I would say this again to Gardner Johnson. Dude, you got the money. You won the battle. Now it's time to go win the war. You got him. You won. You made $800,000 last year. Get the chance to make $8.5 million. You won. It's over. You've won. Let's move on to Howie Roseman here. Funny, I was just talking to Tone. And before I get into this, boy, you should see people defending this guy because of what he did a year ago. And I think it's credible that you give him that love because it was a great job. One of the best constructed rosters I've ever seen. I give that to you. I totally do. I have gone to the Eagle website, and I even asked Tone to do this because I think the Eagles are trying to revise his history as general manager and putting the dates because of that whole Chip Kelly fiasco. And I've gone to others. I went to the NFL. I asked the NFL offices in Park Avenue this morning. I said, give me the resume of Howie Roseman. And I asked a couple people that I know in there. Todd Lewicki helped me out a lot. He was one of the major people in the national. I think he was number 2 to Roger Goodell. I know him from where? When he was the president of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Todd Lewicki directed me to people who have resumes. It's funny how people have changed the narrative on Howie a little bit. He's been with the organization, from what I can gather, 23 years. He was general manager of the football team in his first stint from 2010 to 14. Then, after the whole Chip Kelly nightmare, from 19 to 2023. This is what I've gathered. And he was the VP of player personnel from 08 to 09 because Tom Hackett was the general manager of the Eagles. Does that sound right to people before I move on? Does that sound right? First stint, 2010 to 14, and then 19 to present. Does that sound right? And VP of player personnel from 08 to 09. Does that sound right? 23 years. He came up through the ranks, from what I'm gathering and what people are telling me, as a capologist. Okay? They told me that's how he came up through the process. Was like VP of business operations. Then he moved into the front office and going from like being a cap, he was a cap guy, basically. GT says he learned under Joe Banner. However, again, guys, do those dates sound right? Because if you go to the Eagles website, it doesn't line up with the NFL. It's funny. It just doesn't line up. It's very convoluted. I mean, they make you think that he's been the GM for the last 15 years. It's not true. He learned under Joe Banner. Okay, that sounds right. Banner was there early in the process with Andy Reid. That sounds right. Okay, came up through, as I said, the finance side of the business. Wasn't a personnel guy at all, actually. Okay? Paid his dues, but failing every draft. No. I'm not. No. I'm not saying that. That's not where I'm going here. That is not where I'm going. What? No one wants to corroborate those dates? Let me move on to this. Okay. Howie's Philly. So, if we're to take what you guys and what everyone is saying about Howie Roseman, okay, Skid says no, East opening day means spring almost here. Okay, that's how I used to look at it too. April, opening of the season. I used to remember April 6th, April 9th. I used to remember all of that. Absolutely. Okay, I should show you guys something here. I'll do that in the break. I got something years ago from the Jackie Robinson Foundation because we grew up around Jackie. And I'll show you something that I have from the foundation that I don't really bring out too often. I think you'll really like it. So hopefully I can find, hopefully it's still where I think it is, because my kid could have moved it, because she shows that I got this item from the Jackie Robinson Foundation. I know Rachel very well. She still lives in Stamford, Connecticut, as a matter of fact. So if we're to go and take Howie and his resume, his convoluted resume, at what it says, here's who the people Howie has drafted on defense that have been impact players. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Avonte Maddox. I didn't realize Josh Sweat was a fourth rounder. And Josh Sweat. Those are the only people I could come up with. And for the record, did the Eagles draft Greg Lloyd and cut him? Did Howie draft Greg Lloyd and the Eagles cut him? Is that how that worked? They cut Greg Lloyd and cut him? I can't be the same Greg Lloyd linebacker that played in Pittsburgh. That can't be. Okay? Because that guy was a force there. That can't be the same Greg Lloyd. I'm going to assume it's not, even though it says linebacker. Okay? So you're trying to tell me, as I made the statement yesterday, people throwing out there on my Twitter page that Howie some sort, he drafts impact players. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Avonte Maddox, okay, I guess, and Josh Sweat. I said defense, Jason. Defense. D-E-F-E-N-S-E. Defense. 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 Name me another guy he's drafted that has been in it, that you would consider one of the better defensive football players in his time running the team. As I made a statement, they don't draft impact guys. He's drafted 4 dudes in his time as GM. 4 dudes. TJ Edwards was a free agent. Milton Williams is not an impact player. Okay? He's not an impact guy. He's a backup. Name me more. By the way, I got to look at that thing too. That better not be Greg Lloyd. They cut Greg Lloyd? So for me to sit here and go, he's going to draft a defensive guys, he's got to draft defensive guys. He's got to draft defensive guys because he doesn't have the money. He's not good on that side of the ball, dude. His track record sucks. Those are, for the amount of time you draft 4 dudes, once again, his strength is trades and finding guys. Is that the kid, too, that's playing up in Buffalo? Gold goes, I don't see the point if we win. Well, I'm going to tell you what the point is because of what you had last year. You're not retooling this football team like you think you are through the draft on defense. He's never done it. He's never done it. But on 28 days from now, you think he's going to reinvent the wheel this year because why? He was named the executive of the year? He's terrible on that side of the ball. If you look at his draft history, he's awful. I'll tell you what, he does a good job on the O side. I give you that. Defensive? Howie Roseman's terrible on defense. And then people go, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham. Okay, he's been in the building 23 years. 23 years he's been in the building. At least half of that time he's been a GM. Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, congratulations, in 15 years. Man, to sit here and tell me he's going to land. That's why when you look at Fletcher Cox being overdrafted on that side of the ball, makes total sense for me now. Totally. He can't spot defensive talent. He never has. He's never – who's the best football player he's ever been a part of in drafting? Fletcher? Fletcher's a good player, man. No, Fletcher's a great player. Fletcher Cox is a great football player. He is. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brandon Graham, if I were to grade him, probably had a B career. Not bad, man. He's been a really good ball player. Not one of the elite guys in the league, though. Fletcher was an elite guy in the league. There's not a guy he's drafted that was considered the elite guy in the league. Not like you see when you see those old linemen that they draft. Lane Johnson's the elite player in the league. Jordan Mailata has a shot to be the elite left tackle in the game once Trent Williams leaves. The guy in Tampa and the guy in Los Angeles with the Chargers are probably going to battle him for the best LT. Okay? He's a capologist. That's right. The point, once again, this is going to be a tougher rebuild for Howie Roseman this time around than it was a year ago because of the fact he's got to go into the draft and tool the side of the football that's his weakest part of his game. Howie Roseman's weakest part of his game is drafting defensive football players. His track record speaks to it. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. And you were able to spend money on Hassan Reddick to give him $15 million. You can't do that now. You were able to give Bradbury $8 million last year. You can't do that now. You can't. That's why you're signing these nickel and dime players on cheap deals. Look, in the totality, Howie, is he one of the best general managers in the NFL? Yes. But restructuring and retooling this team, this is going to be a tougher putt for him because he's not good on the defensive side of the football. And you got 5 new coaches and a coordinator on that side of the ball. Everybody in Philly thinks this is going to be just plug and play. How can you say that? He's never been good at that side of the ball. They go, Sills, they were number 2 last year. Yeah, with free agents and trades. Not this year. This is a completely different rebuild because you're using different platforms to retool the team. Last year, trades and free agents. This year, the draft. The players that you drafted last year had 0 impact on the football team. This year, you've got to rely on Dean. You've got to rely on Jordan Davis. And you got to rely on the players that you're going to take in 28 days. If you're going to win an NFC title. This is a tougher putt. Brian, that's kind of where I'm at. There's so many more moving pieces this year. Inexperience, lesser money. Last year, he had the latitude to spend money and make trades. Watch this. Trading for Jeffrey Simmons, that's more unlikely now than ever before. Why? Well, because you have to restructure a contract. You have to have a sign and trade. That guy's going to – what? Jeffrey Simmons is going to command more than Javon Hargrave. He's going to demand more than Javon Hargrave. So let me get this right. You're going to pay $20 million a year for Jeffrey Simmons and then turn around and pay $50 million a year for Jalen Hurts? I get that contract doesn't kick in until March of 24. Dank goes, you defer the money and spread it out because now with the new collective bargaining agreement, you can do that with the cap. You can. There's more latitude and more team-friendly. There is. But what makes you think Howie is going to land on guys on defense? Nakobe Dean? What linebacker has he ever landed on? Now, he's smart to stay in the SEC. He's smart. Same with Jordan Davis. You want to hear something crazy? The only reason that I think Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean could turn out to be something is because they did play in the SEC. If they were Big Ten guys, I would not have any hope for those dudes. But because they played at Georgia, I have hope. That's the only reason. Because I haven't seen it. My friends, when you watch a football player play, you know what you're looking at right away. Don't let your eyeball test fail you. Okay? Don't let your eyeball test fail you. You guys knew pretty fast. Watch this. How fast did you know that Jalen Reagor sucked? How fast did you know Jalen Reagor sucked? How many games did it take you to know Jalen Reagor wasn't the dude that was drafted ahead of Justin Jefferson? How fast did your eyeballs tell your brain that guy's not good? 3 games, 4 games, half a season? Surely didn't take as long as the Eagles kept him on the team, did it? How long did it take you guys? Did you guys know right away that Jalen Reagor blew? Don't let your eyeball test fail you. Because sometimes, look, I've said this story to you before. Okay? I've said this before to you. Dude, I watched that guy, Justin Herbert, throw the ball, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, it was the Tyrod Taylor game where they stabbed Tyrod Taylor in the heart, and all of a sudden, this guy's playing against Kansas City. And I'm like, that guy has got some arm. Holy shit. This guy throws BBs. Look, I get it, man. The whole thing around him, he's got to win. He's got to put teams. They made it to the playoffs. I get it. He's got to do more. But when you saw Justin Herbert throw the ball, and I kind of know the kid, so I like the kid. I got pictures of me and him. I posted them. The kid's, he's enormous. He's like 6'6", 6'7". Okay, when you watched him throw the ball, you were like, holy shit. Look how long it took Jalen Hurts for people to go, this guy's good. Took him a year and then another year. It took Jalen Hurts 2 years before people went, hey, this guy could be the guy. It took Justin Herbert 4 games before people were doing this. That guy could throw the ball. Took you guys, 5 games to go like this? Jalen Reagor sucks, man. This don't look like it's going to pan out. And it didn't. You knew it immediately. How long did it take you to figure out the guy from Stanford sucked? Your eyeball test, okay, is the first litmus test that you have to get past. Hey, from what I've seen so far, that's why it always should start there. That's why you watch tape on players. You don't watch workouts. Workouts lie to you. When you watch the combine lies to you. Jimmy Johnson, 101. The combine lies to you. Man, this guy's a hell of an athlete. Then you watch his tape and you're like, I don't know, man. He's not that productive. But did you see him at the combines? The combines lie to you. They lie to you. And then what it does, it skews your judgment because you take too many variables into what you're looking at with the player. Game tape and production are 1 and 2. The running of a 40 is last. You don't go to the combines going, hey, he can improve his draft stock. The only way you can improve your draft stock, in my opinion, at a combine is your interview. It's the interview. Let me get to know you. I've already seen the tape. Watching you run in shorts or in your underwear, I don't know. Was the 4.78 that Jordan Davis ran impressive? Absolutely. Does that make him a football player? Absolutely not. To me, I read that and I consistently tell you guys this. You got all that athleticism and you don't produce more? Something wrong with that. But you give him the benefit of the doubt because he played at Georgia and because he was a flash player at Georgia. That's what he was and is. He's a flash player. He can make these incredible plays. Jerome Brown was a flash player, but Jerome flashed 7-8 times a game. This guy may do it 1 or 2. Jerome was a flash player. All of a sudden, you see 3 sacks. You're like, holy shit. Took 15 off. But he made 3 sacks out of the most important plays in the game. That's who that guy is. That's kind of who Aaron Donald is. Aaron Donald's kind of that guy. He's a flash player. You could run the ball on the Rams, run the ball down their throat. This guy has 2 sacks and 1 sack that wins the game. That's who Aaron Donald is. Watch this. 15 tackles for losses, 16 sacks, and his defense gives up 5 yards a carry. Okay, okay. I mean, right? I mean, Aaron Donald never really played on a unit that was one of the top run defenses in the NFL, and he hasn't, ever. Raheem told me that. The DC of the Rams, he's a flash player, but the flashes are like lightning bolts. All of a sudden, he's in the NFC Championship game, sacking the quarterback. You're like, holy cow, this guy, impact player. Howie's never drafted a guy like that. Closest it's been Fletcher. Back to full circle here. One more time. So you're confident you think Howie Roseman is going, and I hear people that go on shows and I hear, yeah, the defense will pretty much be the same as what it was a year ago. How? This guy doesn't draft impact guys. He's drafted 2, if you want to count Brandon Graham as one. And Josh Sweat. I didn't realize Josh Sweat was a 4th rounder. Look how good he is in latter rounds. Howie Roseman and his team are so much better from round 3 down. They're not very good rounds 1 through 2, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They're not. And they got to rely on that draft, last year's draft and this year's draft, to retool that team. The only talk that we've had in this offseason is if, get this, it used to be this. Will Jalen Hurts show us that he's the guy at quarterback? You know what the new conversation is in Philly? Will Jordan Davis live up to the 13th pick? Will he be a better pass rusher? That's the new storyline. Right? Hey, you know, when I bring this stuff up here and I bring this and I say this to you, you know, one thing that you could do on my show compared to other shows, we could debate that. Tell me I'm wrong. Where has he been impactful in the defense? He can't pick a corner to save his life. He can't. Linebackers, like people say, have no impact on the football team. So why are you sleeping on Dean and Milton? I'm not sleeping on them. They haven't done anything. Those are potential guys. Sleeping? Not sleeping. Like I told you before, Eagle fan, I'm not a fortune teller. I talk about shit that's going on March 30th, not December 15th of next year or this coming year. It's not what I do. That's not how I do my show. That's why opinions change. Opinions change because players' production changes. People don't get that. You can't stick to an opinion if someone gets better, can you? Can you stick to an opinion if someone shows you improvement? That's called talking with blinders on. That's called lying to the people who watch you or listen to you. Right? Jalen Hurts went like this on a trajectory. I didn't think he was very good in that Buck game. I thought he was terrible. But he's gone like this, right? So you want me to still talk Jalen Hurts Buccaneers? Or do you want me to talk Jalen Hurts Kansas City? You mean I should have the same opinion of Jalen Hurts in the Buck game as I should in the Kansas City Super Bowl? Who talks like that? Who does shows like that? Who does shows like that? Not me, man. I've never. Brian, it's not changing your opinion. It's the player changing your opinion. It's the player getting better or worse. Like all of a sudden a guy goes like this and he starts falling off. We see that all the time. Hey, didn't you guys change your opinion on Carson Wentz? Didn't you change your opinion on Carson Wentz? He was going like this, right? Trajectory was like this. What was he, 11-2 when he got knocked out? Was it Carson Wentz? Like this? And then like this, watch. Wham. Didn't you change your, or did you have the same opinion Wentz was still good when he was down here and aiming down and trending down? I don't give a shit about after. Players get injured all the time. That's a stupid excuse, GT. Players get hurt all the time. Brady never trended down after his knee injury. Brady kept winning Super Bowls. Shit, Peyton Manning hurt his neck. Went to Denver, won a Super Bowl. Went to 2. Players get hurt. Drew Brees blows his shoulder out in San Diego. Goes to New Orleans as a Hall of Famer. I see a lot of people haven't seen Carter's game film. Carter and Davis would stop all run game. I'm talking more about pass rushing, too. They need some pass rushers in the middle. Your impact of Javon Hargrave not being in there is not going to be on your run defense. It's going to be in the pass defense and pass rushing. That's his impact and where it will be felt the most. He wasn't the greatest run stopper. Okay? As a matter of fact, that defense wasn't the greatest run-stopping defense. What were they, 15th or 16th? It's middle of the road. They weren't sensational run stoppers. They were great at getting after the quarterback until they ran into an elite quarterback and they stuffed it and shut it out in the Super Bowl. Nobody got close to Mahomes. Hassan Reddick didn't get close to Mahomes. Reed knew how to defend him. Kyle Shanahan doesn't. Always will be the problem in San Francisco. You know what that is? Protecting his quarterbacks. Garoppolo's been hurt. Purdy's been hurt. Trey Lance has been hurt. Kyle Shanahan does not protect his quarterbacks. Remember what I told you about Howie trending? Not very good defensively. Kyle Shanahan cannot protect his quarterbacks. Can't. Look at the history. So again, just to close this topic up, this is going to be a tougher and a lot more moving parts, like some of you say, when it comes to Howie Roseman building this defense back up again. Dan, Eagles mock draft, trade down with Ravens, 22, get BJ, Emmanuel Forbes in the second round. He'll be up there at the top of the second round, though. The DT to him, Hodges, Tomlinson in the third. Running back in the fourth. Those all sound like needs too, GI. Those look like needs. Those look like needs. Pat, that's spectacular what you do. He ruined RG3 as the OC in Washington. That is so good, Pat. That guy has destroyed quarterbacks from Washington to San Francisco. That's why they can't win Super Bowls. And like Tone says, hey, they could put their name on the test, but the quarterback's never there at the end. They're not. Kyle Shanahan is the worst head coach in the NFL at protecting his quarterbacks, and his resume speaks to it. His resume speaks to it. Every guy he's had as a quarterback has been hurt. Why? Protection. He's got these guys doing all these exotic pass routes, and everyone that he's ever had as a signal caller gets annihilated. I mean, I tell a lot of people, I'd like to have seen what that NFC Championship game would have looked like if you put a tackle or tight end, or not even a tight end, because tight ends, Reddick was killing tight ends in the end. Did you not see the player production that was coming out of Reddick in the last month and a half of the season? And when you put a back on him, or you tried putting a lame-ass tight end on him, did you not see he was getting around the horn? How did you not see that? I mean, dude, he's such a good head coach. He's the worst at protecting the most important position. Hey, this is why I give the Eagles shit for what they did in Chicago to Jalen. That wasn't protecting him. And Ken Dorsey's got to do a better job in Buffalo at protecting Josh Allen, or he's going to get his shit handed to him. He's protecting that position is the most important proposition that a head coach has. Man, if I lose Deebo Samuel, so fucking what? I can't lose. Get this. You can lose Deebo Samuel. You can't lose Brock Purdy. Sills, Deebo's better. He ain't more important. GT, thank you, man. You're awesome, man. That's really cool of you. Watch this. You can't lose Andy Dalton, but you can lose Alvin Kamara. You can't lose your signal caller and end up with Josh Johnson. Or a running back playing quarterback for you in the NFC title game. Come on, man. Guy in San Francisco needs to get his shit together. Who would have ever thought lesser players have to be more protected than your superstars on your team? Watch this. Who's more important on the team? A.J. Brown or Jalen Hurts? Hey, A.J. gets hurt. Hey, man, that's a big loss. As long as I don't see Marcus Mariota, I'm good. That's why I tell you about the dual threat stuff. You imagine losing AJ and Jalen? Season's over. You lose Jalen Hurts and you lose AJ Brown, your season's over. Shit, man, you might even say Lane Johnson. Lane's a pretty important player because he's your best. Still, I'd rather lose Lane Johnson for the year than Jalen. Let me move on to the second topic here. By the way, I've got grades on the positions in the draft. And what that means is not player, but groupings. O-line, wide receivers. What's the best group of players and the best pool of players to draft from? Bledsoe and a couple GMs told me what they are. We're going to do that at the top of the hour. Okay, we'll do that at the top of the hour. Tell me if you think this is real with Nick Sirianni. Everybody's at the owners' meetings there and answering questions and throwing out things, and looks like a really great time. League's in a great place right now. Do you know Roger Goodell's going to sign a $70 million a year contract? Wow. $70 million. He dwarfs Rob Manfred of the Major League Baseball, Adam Silver, Gary Bettman. He dwarfs those dudes. He just dwarfs those. He's going to make a $70 million per year deal. $70 million. Full benefits for the rest of his life and an insane pension. Everyone's having a fun time at the player's expense. It's pretty crazy. So be it. Tell me if you think this is reality or a mirage. Do people think that Nick Sirianni has more say over the Eagles than what Doug Peterson had over the Eagles? Do people believe, or do you think it's a ruse? Like, here, let me go here with you. Brian Johnson was going to be the offensive coordinator no matter what. And Nick could go out and tell you that he interviewed 100 million guys. Brian Johnson was going to be the OC. I don't care what the Eagle front office and PR people and Bob Lang and all them dudes want to tell you. Do we not agree that I don't care who he interviewed. And quite frankly, I don't believe Sean Desai was a hire by Nick Sirianni. But yet it's now being put out there like Sirianni's got say over the coaching staff. Didn't Nick Sirianni say just a couple months ago at the Super Bowl? Hell, when I got to Philly, I didn't even know who the coaching staff was. I had to introduce myself. Why would the Eagles lie like that? Or why would the media lie like that, that Nick has more say over the team than what Doug did? Why would you lie like that? Sirianni's own mouth at the Super Bowl, he said, I didn't even know who the coaching staff was. I had to introduce myself. Is that because Howie wants it to have an illusion that Nick's a better coach than Doug? So that everyone looks at it as an upgrade from Doug? Right now, Howie wins that. Well, not really, because Doug has proven who he is. Doug's in Jacksonville, one of the shitholes of the NFL, and he went to the playoffs. By the way, let me bury the lead. Doug Peterson is by far a better coach than Nick Sirianni. Miles ahead. But why would the Eagles tell you? Or how about this? I don't know if they're telling you that. It just seems that media people in Philly now are going, man, Sirianni's got more say over the hirings of the coaching staff because he's interviewed. Are you nuts? They're going to run the same defense. And they probably put a priority on that. Hey, Sean, we're going to run the same defense. Can you run the defense that we're going to implement? Yes. Okay. To put it out there that you think Nick Sirianni has more say than Doug. Doug Peterson was fired because he wanted more say. Hey, Sills, do you draft Bijan at 10 and make the offense unstoppable and just fill in the holes in defense and free agency and later picks? I'm over the drafting running back in the first round myth. Totally. He's the fifth best player in the draft. But they won't do that. They won't draft the fifth best player. They'll take some dumbass safety there or something. I mean, dude, I agree with you, Neil. I think the media in Philadelphia teams up with the Eagles and puts out the narrative. That's why when you listen to the national guys, at least you get the real perspective. I found out more that Jalen was hurt from Peter King. I mean, Jalen said he barely could raise his arm in the Giant game. I didn't know that. We assumed it. Nick Sirianni has no more say than what Doug did. So you gave more say to a guy who lost the Super Bowl than a guy who won one for you with two different quarterbacks. How about this? So you think Nick Sirianni could have took Gardner Minshew to the Super Bowl and won it? And you give that guy more kudos than a guy who took a substitute teacher and beat the GOAT. And the substitute teacher got the MVP. And one of the greatest moments in Super Bowl history. Hey, let's run the Philly special. Let's do it. Let's run it. That's coaching, my friends. Let's run it. Man, that moment in that Super Bowl gives me goosebumps to this day. When a player walks over, Doug's got his play sheet like this. He's on the phone with Frank. They're sitting there, and here comes this 6'6" guy, backup quarterback, walking over going, let's run the Philly special. Let's run it. I mean, dude. Hey, seriously, I was in my house that day, and I went, man, I'll never forget that moment. I will never forget that moment. How a player just walked right over, and in the moment, the coach and the player went, yeah. Henry, would have went first in 2015 and AP would have went first in 2007 instead Jamarcus Russell. Absolutely. I told the Buccaneers to draft Adrian Peterson. They didn't want to draft him. I said, this guy's a generational player. Howie's got complete control of the football team is my point. But yet, because at the owners' meetings, they want to put a narrative out. Hey, Nick's really an upgrade. Now here, I want to say this to you. To be fair to the Eagles, every Eagle coach that they've hired since Andy Reid has had a winning record. Okay? It has had a winning record. There's a lot to be said about that. They have had winning records. Okay? So if I have had a coach that has had a winning record every year that I've been general manager of the team, I'm going to give the head coach say in the hiring of the coaches when he never did before? Where does that come from? Except, again, spreading false narratives like the Gardner Johnson stuff. Gardner Johnson told me Eagles offered less money. They didn't offer more money. It's a lie. Offered less. It wasn't a lot less, but it was less. And that tweet was aimed at Philly. The disrespect is real. Gardner Johnson got offered a lesser contract in Philadelphia. And the disrespect was real. I don't know where it came from that the Eagles offered him more money. It's not in a multiple deal. Who told you that? Let me get this straight. The head coach has absolutely no say. Why have a head coach then? Ask the Dallas Cowboys that. Because you get to control your roster and all you get. Hey, Furman. So when Doug Peterson was in his final game as the Philadelphia Eagles head coach, tell me this. Who were they playing again? Was it Washington? They were playing, was it Washington in Doug's final game at the Link? When they sat all them starters, including Jalen Hurts, so they could get a look at, what was that dude's name, Nick Sudfeld? You think that was Doug's call? To play a preseason game in week 16 of the NFL? Or do you think that was the GM's call? Whose call do you think that was? The head coach? Hey, we're going to sit Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson and Jalen Hurts and all them dudes so we can get a look at Nate Sudfeld. They pulled the Sixers on you. That came from Howie. That came from Howie Roseman in the front office. The front office tanked that game. You think Doug rolls into a game trying to lose? Really? Oh, my God. You don't really believe, I know you don't believe that. That was Howie's call. So when you ask me that question, Furman, when you ask me that question, what's that about? It's about railroading Doug. That's what that was about. Undermining your head coach. Making him look as awful as he can so the owner picks him on a 3-year contract extension and you fire a head coach who won the Super Bowl for you. I don't need to print that out for you and pass it around like a newsletter, do I? Yeah. So to sit here and think that Howie Roseman is listening to Doug. Don't you remember when Nick Sirianni? Now look, wait a minute. I think Doug's I think Doug has shown everybody what kind of coach he is, but I also think Nick has built equity up in the building. I do. I think Nick has more equity. But what did John Mara tell Brian Daboll at the owners' meetings yesterday? You had a really great year coaching. Don't be a schmuck this year, because that leaf could turn on you. That's Ray Rhodes. Ray Rhodes won an NFL Coach of the Year in Philly. They fired him 2 years later. Matt Nagy was the NFL Coach of the Year. Chicago fired his ass in 2 years after he won that Coach of the Year award. Don't be a schmuck. Because when you got lesser, look at Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick now is being called overrated because you don't have Brady in the building. But yet, the media doesn't want to give Belichick credit for finding and developing the guy into the GOAT. Hey, have the Steelers really been the same since Roethlisberger's left or gotten older? Or have the Steelers been the same since Chuck Noll left? It happens generationally, man. You get a player. You get a head coach who changes the room for you. And that's why people don't win long periods of time in the NFL. Because players get older, coaches get older, and rosters change. I mean, right? Brian says, I think it was when everything went crap, Roseman wanted to tank the game, but Doug wanted to win the game. How do you ever enter a football game where you're not trying to win it? I never want to be part of an organization like that. That was a control game. That was Howie Roseman's. Howie Roseman got his 3-year contract extension tanking that Washington game and getting rid of Doug. That's where he won the power struggle. Gee, I hope this is not some sort of eye-opening epiphany to some. Okay? Furman, Doug didn't deserve that. Got to remember something. It's a power. This is what makes what New England did so remarkable. And I'll tell you who I think was the reason that thing worked. Brady was submissive in the role between Belichick and Brady. He was submissive. But even Tom wanted control, like he did in Tampa. He had enough of it. And that's why he left. Jerry Jones, Jimmy Johnson, power struggle. We see it all the time in all sports. Jerry Krause, Reinsdorf, and Phil Jackson. The Chicago Bulls were never beaten on the court in an NBA championship game. You know where they were beaten? At the bank. The Bulls were beaten at the bank. They didn't want to pay Jordan $35 million a year anymore. And they didn't believe Phil was the guy. Have the Bulls ever been the same? No. Egos got in the way in Chicago. Chicago's the greatest example of how, now look, Jerry Krause can draft. Finding guys like Tony Kukoc and all that shit. Getting Pittman. I mean, Scottie Pippen was one of the best. How the hell did Laurie go along with this? Well, simple, Furman. Who handles the money? Your GM. He handles the money. That's why when Howie comes out the other day going, I got a budget here. Man, he's already told the owner, we're not spending money on defense. I think Howie did, honestly, I think Howie probably did the right financial thing for the team. Not paying Hargrave $20 million and not paying CJ $9 to $10 million at a safety position. Sorry, CJ, but I'm not paying a safety $10 million, dude. Okay? When I get 2 corners at $14 million, I can't afford you. They cannot afford, no team could. 2 safeties at 14 and a safety at 10? Come on, man. Where's that ever gone down? So Howie looked at what Tone says, impact positions. Well, I'm going to pay the impact positions. I'm going to pay the corners. So he went with the corners and looked at the tackle and the safety and went, no way. I'll give Fletch 10, and I'll find some guys to play linebacker. Remember, he found Edwards and Kaiser White. He thinks he could do it again. Free agency and making trades, he probably can. Remember what I told you yesterday. Again, the rip today is not on Howie, the GM. It's Howie, the drafting defensive general manager. He's not good at it. However, trading for Slay, trading for CJ, Hargrave, those were all great moves. And I would think he's going to do it again. I do. Because he's got a track record of that. He's got a track record of absolutely blowing as a drafter of defensive players. He's not, I mean, he can't even, again, Sweat is developing into something. But remember, Sweat's not a first rounder. He's an overachiever. I thought he was a first rounder. He's a fourth rounder. I mean, I've told you, he's better in latter rounds. He finds really good players in latter rounds. But 1 through 2, look, Devontae, again, I think they're good on offense. They got Devontae right, it seems, and I think he is. They get the old line right. But remember something about Devontae, too. He's not your number one. Well, we got 2 ones. The other guy on the other side, you really think Devontae Smith is better than A.J. Brown? Come on. Come on. Eyeball test. Remember it. Eyeball test. It's not by a nose. You think by a nose, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are like this. That's like saying Devontae and Deebo Samuel and DK Metcalf are the same. Come on, man. Come on. Jalen Waddle and Devontae are probably right in there. They're probably the same guy. Judy. But then you got Deebo, DK, right? You got them kind of guys. Justin Jefferson, right? AJ's bigger. Dude, AJ Brown, when he gets the ball, is like T.O. All right. Groupings in the upcoming NFL draft. What are the strongest positions according to Bledsoe and general managers around the league? What position in the April draft? Like 27 or 28 days away? Hit the like button. Hour 2. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Sales National Football Show. We're going to get into the top groupings and positions. The majority of the players coming up in the April draft in 28 days. What's the best grouping? I mean by like tight ends, corners, safeties, offensive line, that kind of stuff. We're going to get to that here in a minute. Something with the draft on Bryce Young. I'm gonna point something out to you before we move on. So, since 2011 or 12, do you know that, I think it's 12, that nobody's won the Super Bowl that's under 6'2", except for Russell Wilson? You're going to draft a 5'10" quarterback out of Bama? No guy under 6'2" has won that thing. They've all been 6. I mean, Nick Foles was 6'6". Only Russell Wilson. And you're going to draft that guy number 1 overall? That's a little dude, man. He's a really good ball player. So was Charlie Ward, though. At least Charlie Ward was tall, though. He played for the Knicks. I mean, it's just a question mark. It's a big question mark for me. 5'10", 190. Bryce Young. Are you taking him number 1 overall? When there's been no success in the Super Bowl except for Russell Wilson. 5'11.5". Anton did a mock draft yesterday. Best available Eagles take Robinson at 10 and the kid from Pitt at 30. TCU guard Steve Avaya is the best player available at 62. Very similar to Sayamalo. I like your thinking, Anton. A lot. Okay? A lot. I like that thinking. I'm going to get to that here in a minute. I got one more thing about the Eagle offense. Let me ask you this. How much different do you think the Eagle offense is going to be in approach? You know, nuance changes in the running back and right guard. And still probably need a number 3. How much change do you think we'll see in the offenses coming year? You think it'll be status quo from what they did a year ago? You think it'll be status quo? Pretty much the same. With Brian Johnson as your offensive coordinator. 0 change? So you're going to continue to run Jalen at the same rate. You're not going to – you don't really want to – you don't want to do this to Hurts. You don't want to change his game. So you're not going to protect the player. You're just going to let him continue to go the way he is. Same shit we talk about the guy in Buffalo. Okay? And without 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns, you're going to remain the same formula that you had last year. That's what you guys are all saying now. No change. And you're going to pay a guy like that $50 million with lesser offensive production in the backfield. And don't kid yourself. That backfield is limited in health and in production. At least when you went into a year with Miles Sanders, you knew there'd be around 800-900 yards. And maybe, well, the year before he didn't have any touchdowns, right? This last year he had a remarkable touchdown season. Okay? So you're okay with what they did last year. You're not going to protect the kid. You're going to run him the same way. Just asking. You'll get the same production from your running backs with lesser talent, right? Okay, Marina. How do you see that? How do you see that? Lesser talent, and you're going to get more production. How? It's more of an emphasis on Hurts running the ball now. Jalen Hurts is your best running back in the backfield. Last year, it was Miles Sanders. This year, it's not true. Hurts was second. But these guys are going to pick up for the production that those two guys did a year ago. Interesting. More throwing, John says. Okay. More throwing. So you think you're going to, wait a minute, whoa. So you think there's going to be more of an emphasis on throwing the ball? That leads to 3 and outs. No. You can't afford 3 and outs with that defense. You can't afford 3 and outs. You got to run the ball, my friends. More throwing? That's not a good remedy for a very new defense. No. Jalen's improvement in the pocket will make up. So more 3 and outs this year than a year ago instead of 14-play drives, which they'll need a lot of this year. Jason goes, Gainwell not a full-time back. Well, he'll have to be. Gainwell will get 1,000 yards again in the land of unknown. Brian says, yes, we have to run the ball more. Move the chains, 12 to 13 play drives. Well, that's not throwing the ball. Okay? Sanders won't break 1,000 yards in Carolina. Well, when you have 3 linemen making $15 million in Philadelphia, that's a given. That's a given. You got the highest paid O-line in the league. Better be good. Nobody puts the resources in their O-line like the Eagles do. It's funny. Everyone goes, well, the Eagles have the best O-line. Well, you better. There's $50 million worth of money in it. Just in 3 guys. You better have the best unit. Let's go here now. So you think that it's pretty much status quo. They're going to run the ball. They're going to have to run the ball. You have to start having 3 and outs. You put that defense in a bind, especially early in the season, with all the new faces. Remedy for disaster and a slow start. Eagle offense is going to have to do what the Patriots used to do when they lost people. You know what that was? Have the offense carry the defense until it matured. Look at even last year. Reddick was not that much of an impact in the first half of the season. Second half, he was a beast. That defense is going to be a green apple. It's going to be a green apple. Probably until November. Same offense. Okay. You have the best run blocking offense. Well, then why get away from that and throw the ball? Those 2 guys got 1,000 yards off of what you guys did because of the ability to run the ball. You guys were that. If you don't have the ability to run the ball, Tom Brady can't carry you. Ask the Bucs. You can't run the ball. You can't throw the ball. It's not this. Let's throw the ball and without a running game. Doesn't work like that in the NFL. Play action's key to this whole thing. Short yardage. You know what the Eagles were really great at last year? 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. Breed says draft the OT from Northwestern. Put him at guard. You know, that's what some people are already saying. Let me get over to the groupings here. And I'm going to go from the worst to first here. Now, there's 11 of them. Now, these are the player groupings that are going to be in the April draft in 28 days. Receivers, O-line, defensive tackles, quarterbacks. What do you think is the worst group? And I want you to apply this to the needs of the Eagles. Okay? Think about what the Eagle needs are. I'm going to go from 11 up. What do you think is the worst group of players going into the April draft? JB, nailed it. Safeties. It's one of the worst group of players at safety outside of the kid Branch that has been going into the draft in 15 years. It's the worst group of players, safeties. It's the worst safety group heading to the draft in 15 years. So the chances of you finding a player in the draft at safety is very slim unless you're drafting this kid, Brian Branch. It's Branch and that's it. The rest of them, not very good. Limited. Very limited in skill. Hence, this is why CJ is probably bitching because people don't pay big premium prices. Everyone learned what happened after the Jamal Adams disaster. All those draft choices at $20 million. Seattle got murdered on that. Eagle goes, we asked the question about will the offense change? You're not going to see a big change, but they should change a double tight end set because Jalen doesn't use 3 wideouts. I think they'll probably play around with that a little bit. What do you think is the second worst group of players heading into the draft? Second worst group of players. Another group not very good. I've watched a ton of film on this. And I found one guy that's in this group of players. Neil, Brian, Callie, you're right. Outside of this Jack Campbell kid, and I'm a fan, there's nothing in there. Aren't linebackers and safeties the two positions that the Eagles need to get into the draft and find some players? So you're heading into the draft with needs at linebacker and safety, and it's the two worst groups of players going into the April draft. Whew. Free agency, Howie's going to have to make a trade somewhere. Howie's going to have to try to make a trade. Linebackers and safeties are the two worst groups in the draft. I take 5 GMs that I talk to all the time. We've had them on the program. You could probably figure it out. And a couple head coaches. Okay? I can't exactly tell you who. You guys know who they are. They've been on. Some team executives. I take all these guys and I take my friends at Bledsoe. And they give me this list. And then I do my homework and they go, you tell me if you see anything different. The ninth worst group of players heading into the April draft in 28 days is what? Guys got an idea? This is crazy, too. This is crazy. The ninth worst group is defensive tackles. You got your top three guys. After that, it tails off massively. Guys who can't get off blocks, guys are too short, guys are too slow, not quick enough, not a lot of player production. The defensive tackles are not very deep. So wait a minute, let me get this right here. Safeties, the worst. Linebackers, the second worst. The third worst group of players are defensive tackles. These are all needs the Eagles need to have. And you're going into the draft with some of the worst positions of need for you. I think you got to make some trades. Eagles signed Street Saints 1 year. The eighth worst. Interior offensive line. Yeah, you're going to start making signs and trades at defensive tackle. Why? It's a horrible group of players going into the draft. They're not graded high. Outside of Carter, the kid from Clemson, and a couple other dudes, it tails off massively. Get this. Why I'm telling you this, the Eagles are listening and doing exactly what I'm telling you. Defensive tackles are a horrible group heading into the draft. Look at the players that Howie's drafted. Linebackers, D linemen, safeties. All the worst positions heading into the draft. Doesn't that tell you something? Every single position that he assigned a free agent are some of the worst players going into the draft in 28 days. He'd rather sign guys on the street than draft them. He's right. I'd rather sign a guy who's got a year experience or been on a ball team than draft some nobody in the fourth round who sucks. And I know I'm getting nothing out of. Hey, NovaCare, you're welcome. Signed a safety? Check. Signed a linebacker? Check. Signed a DT? Check. Safeties? Linebackers? Defensive tackles. Oh, we're not done. The eighth worst is offensive line. You're going to see an O-lineman signed soon. You're going to see some free agent O-linemen signed. Interior. Tackles look to be pretty decent. The seventh worst group of players heading into the draft in 28 days. Running backs. That's why you signed Penny. So, every single position that I have named, I didn't rank them to that. I didn't rank them to the Eagles signing. The Eagles signed a safety, a linebacker, a DT, a running back. All positions that don't have a lot of depth in the draft. Howie's pretty smart here. I'd rather go down. Hey, watch this. I'd rather go down this road too. I'd rather go down this road, especially if you're seeing a lot of weakness in some of these groups running back. I mean, look, the kid from Bama and Bijan Robinson and one other guy. The rest of them are not very good. And you know what that means? And by the way, you may find a guy, turns out to be a great player. It happens. We see it all the time. It happens. Terrell Davis is a great example of that. Okay? Chris Carson, who was up in Seattle before he got injured, that was another great example of that. Dan, you started DT school to help these players. Never thought of that. Coach some of the best players on the planet with your guy and recruited him. Jerome and I recruited Cortez Kennedy. I've posted my Hall of Fame invitation. Watch his speech one day. Tell me what you think of it. God rest his soul. I always tell him you're welcome. The 6th best group in the upcoming NFL draft. Tight ends. I think there's more of a run on these positions now because you know why? The tight end is becoming so important in these offenses, how you move the chains. Think about the great teams in the league right now. Kansas City has, they'd rather get rid of Tyreek Hill than Travis Kelce. The Eagles have a budding star. Baltimore has a star. San Francisco has a star. Everybody's looking for these. I think Gronkowski and players like that, the kid from Cal, all those dudes, man, Tony Gonzalez, I think they changed the game. I think that tight end, and I've made this point to you, if Aaron Hernandez had not been a murderer, I don't think anybody would have ever stopped Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez in that double set tight end. I don't think anybody would have ever stopped it. Nobody was stopping it. That thing was undefensible. Brady, Gronk, and the murderer were unstoppable. That was some offense. Shockey, too, the kid from Miami. All those guys changed the game. Even Kellen Winslow Jr. All those guys changed the game. Antonio Gates. All these guys. Shit, man. The kid from Miami that played basketball. What's his name? Played basketball. Graham. All those guys. They changed the game. And I think when you have a tight end like that, hey, when you have a tight end, who would you rather have? A.J. Brown or Travis Kelce? Who would you rather have? I mean, who do you think the 49ers would rather have? Kittle or Debo? Debo kind of acts more like a tight end. You know, he runs the ball. He does a lot more shit than just being a tight end. I'd rather have Kittle than DK Metcalf. Should we keep it going and draft Darnell Washington high as a pick? Izzy, thank you. Let me get to the rest of these positions here. The 5th best group heading into the April draft are wide receivers. This position has become something that I think has started to change at the high school level. When kids were growing up and you wanted to be an offensive star, what were the 2 positions you wanted to be? Quarterback and running back. Well, players today know that they're going to get paid more money and take less abuse being wideouts. So all the talent has shifted from the high school level to the wide receiver position. I used to think that was just a Christmas ball on the tree. Now, I think it's part of making the cake. Everyone wants to be a wideout now. Think about it. If you're a running back, used to be back in the day, 25 carries, you took a beating, you turned out like Ezekiel Elliott or Todd Gurley. Now, you can play 20 years, not get hit, get paid more, and be a diva, and be a social media dude. Tone just said Eagles have signed former Saints DT, Contavious Street, per sources. Street racked up 6 sacks for the Saints last season on 518 snaps he played. Street now joins safety Justin Evans as the second free agent this season to go from New Orleans to Philadelphia. Remember what I said? As we're going over this list, I didn't even know that they were going to do this. They signed the defensive tackle because the position is not deep in the draft. Unless they draft a guy in the first round and Carter falls down there, they're not taking a DT in this draft. They may take one later, but why? The group's not good. I ranked them from worst to first. We haven't even got up the list yet. Safeties, linebackers, DTs, interior lines, guards and centers, running backs. At 6 is tight ends, 5 is wide receivers. Howie is doing the right thing here. You're signing guys on very limited income, very limited money, and you're looking for at least production. And I'm going to give him the benefit of these guys. You know why? He's been very good at this. He's not been good at drafting these guys. These are replacements for your defense, these one-year guys. And he's right. That's unbelievable that I'm telling you this as we're doing. Safety, he signed one. Linebacker, he signed one. DT, he signed one. Running back, he signed one. Those are 4 of the worst position groups going into the draft. I'd rather do what he's doing. I'd rather do what he's doing. I'd rather get a productive guy versus a guy that the group's not with a high ranking. I'll take that. He was the Saints' second most consistent interior D lineman as a pass rusher and produced 19 pressures, 6 sacks. He did get moved around in the run defense, but that's okay. So did Javon Hargrave. Dude, you know what's funny here? I'm going to read this one more time to you. And tell me if this fits. We'll finish this up here. Watch this. Watch this, Tone. The Eagles have signed Javon Hargrave. Per sources, Hargrave racked up 11 sacks for the Saints last year on 518 snaps played. Street joins Justin Evans as the second free agent they've signed from New Orleans. With the Eagles, he's the second most productive interior lineman as a pass rusher, produced 19 pressures and 6 sacks. He did get moved around. Hargrave did get moved around in the run defense, and that weekend led to the Saints getting gashed in the ground. 16th ranked you were. Best as a pass rush specialist. I don't know. Sounds like a cheap man's version of Javon Hargrave to me. Cheaper money. Safer to go here than in the draft. What I've been telling you. Sounds like Javon Hargrave to me 2.0. So this guy had how many sacks? He had 6. Okay, so 5 more. How many sacks did Hargrave get in that Pittsburgh game? What was it, 3? Pittsburgh's O-line was terrible last year. Pittsburgh's O-line was terrible. Sounds like the same to me. Just cheaper. Right? Javon Hargrave is not a run-stopping guy by any stretch of the imagination. Javon Hargrave was more of a run specialist or a pass-rushing specialist. Look, he's adequate in stopping the run. He's adequate. Okay, but this is all brilliant moves by Howie. Look at this. You know what? Again, he's doing – you know what I got to give Howie Roseman credit for? He's going away from his weaknesses, drafting defense. This is pretty smart shit here, man. As we're doing our show, he's pretty smart. Give him it. Yes, sir. He can't draft a safety. He signs one. He can't draft a linebacker. He signs one. Needs a running back. It's not a very strong group. I don't want to waste the first or 30th pick or a second rounder. He signs one. And you know what we said the other day, Tone? You sign all these free agents, you're hoping 5 hit. Last year, when everyone hit, everyone got paid. That's right, Neil. Can't find them, buy them. Especially if they're economically sound. Dude, this is a cheap man's version of Javon Hargrave. There ain't nothing wrong with that. Because, again, I'm not spending $20 million on Javon Hargrave. That is not happening for a one-dimensional player. He does not have the impact that guy in Los Angeles has. And I'm talking Aaron Donald, and you're talking a couple $1 million off of what he's making? No effing way. No way am I paying. You know what? I'll tell you this. I'm not even paying him $15 million. Sills, that's the market. Yeah, well, guess what? What Tone said the other day is DT an impact position? If it's Aaron Donald, it is. Well, he ain't it. And by the way, it's a one-year thing where, how do you know, man, he goes to San Francisco and has 3 tackles and he's hurt? I don't know. That's a lot of money to put out there like that. So in my opinion, this is a heck of a sign. This is a heck of a sign. It's a sign because, why is it a heck of a sign? Well, the defensive tackle position sucks in the draft. And if I can't find Carter, okay, I'm good. I'll create depth. Boy, this puts more pressure on your guy, though, man. Your guy. Dude, this is pretty interesting. I love how Howie works. I'm figuring him out. He's looking at how shitty some of these groups – and look what he's doing. He's doing it before the draft. Hey, man, it's not a very good linebacking core. Now, I'm not saying he won't draft one of these guys, but he's going to take a gamble. Howie's going to go like this. Sign a free agent linebacker, draft a free agent linebacker late. Draft a safety, sign a safety. And you're going to hope you hit on one. So what you're basically doing right here is you're creating more equity as your own personal draft. DTs. Let me sign this kid. This kid that they just signed might actually be better than anything that's in the draft, say after round 3. And he got him at a cheap price. The 4th best group of players heading into the draft in April in 28 days, what do you think is what? Remember, this is really interesting. Safeties were the worst. Linebackers second worst. DTs third worst. Interior O-line, guards and centers. Running backs. Tight ends. Starting to get to a good group here. Wide receivers is a good group. What do you think is the 4th best group of players heading into the draft? Breed. Quarterbacks. 4th best group of players with the quarterbacks. 4th. But 5 are going to go in the first 10 picks. Dude, Anthony Richardson is not a first-round football player. That guy has bust written all over him. Under 60% completion percentage, played 1 year. Didn't win a lot of ball games. Come on, man. College football isn't going away from defense as well. Offense is going to start being a premium. NFL looks like the faster version of college. Yeah, the RPO stuff you're saying. Thank you, Eagle Way. You think Anthony Richardson looks like a football starting quarterback? Don't compare him to Lamar Jackson. Lamar won the freaking Heisman at Louisville. When you watched him play in college, you were like, shit, this guy's good, man. When I watched Anthony Richardson play, you know what I was watching? The college version of Kaepernick. Now, whatever you think, I think Kaepernick was good, but I would never have taken Colin Kaepernick in the first round. The fourth pick. He was decent at Nevada. I saw him at Nevada. He played for a guy named Coach Alt. And he was good. But, I mean, first round good? No way. No way. I think it's Chris Alt he played for. Come on, man. And this kid from Kentucky, you think he's the third pick? The quarterback groupings, they're the fourth rated group of football players heading into the draft. And the five of them guys, four of those guys will probably go in the top 10. Okay, sure, I guess. Dude, and like I said, you know, especially with Bryce Young. Bryce Young will be the shortest player to ever take a team to a Super Bowl and win it if he ever does. Ever. Like ever. Right now, I think the shortest guy ever to win a Super Bowl is Russell Wilson, 5'11". Since 2012, there's been one dude under 6 feet do it. It was Wilson. The rest of them, all 6'2", 6'5", 6'4", 6'6". But this little guy here is going to break the mold. What's that thing? What Hillary say? Glass ceilings. Glass ceilings. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, Fly? Zach Wilson chased taller MILFs than he did chase taller D linemen. Sorry, I had to do it. Sorry. Sorry, man. The third best group of players. Hey, Yale. What year did the Saints win the Super Bowl? This guy in Jiminy Cricket will be the first. Joseph. Joseph's new nickname for Bryce Young is Jimmy the Cricket. Jiminy the Cricket. Okay, so I said 2012. I was just checking. I didn't think they won the Super Bowl. And Jiminy Cricket. Hey, who did the Texans take in the first round? Jimmy Cricket. Isn't that Pinocchio's boy? Hey, at least he's Italian. Jiminy Cricket must be Italian, or he likes Italians at least. He likes Pinocchio. Hey, sometimes the general manager acts like Pinocchio, but we're good. Yeah. Jiminy Cricket. Maurice says, Sills, what'd you think about Testaverde getting drafted first overall? Was he worth the pick? He won nothing in the pros. Vinny, man. Hey, Maurice, Vinny was the best prospect, and he was exactly like Trevor Lawrence. 500-pound squatter. He's 6'5", could throw the ball 100 yards. But he used to like drift back into his drop up. And he was here. I'm gonna say it to you, Maurice. Testaverde didn't process the information like the greats. Okay, Jalen Hurts, he processes the information quickly in that RPO. You have to. And you have to make split decisions. And you can maybe decipher what I'm saying. I think Jalen Hurts is brilliant. I don't think Vinny could process the information quick enough. He had all the intangibles to be a spectacular prospect and player. But I would take Bernie Kosar over him if I had to win a football game any day, any night. I don't care when it is. In a parking lot, on a roof of a building. Kosar's winning that game. Vinny was taller, built, better athlete, all of it. I'll take Kosar, who looked like a school teacher. It's actually embarrassing that he just didn't. And get this, and he threw for 50,000 yards. Does your list continue to look at some of next year's draft? No, we'll do it. Let me finish. Let me finish this group. I think Testaverde Vinny threw for 50,000 yards. Threw for 50,000 yards. Played 25 years. 1-0. I think Testaverde, until Lamar broke the record, I think he had the record for the most touchdown passes in Ravens history. He had shitty coaching he had shitty coaching in Tampa. He surely did. He had shitty coaching there. He had great coaching in New York where he played a lot better. I think Vinny was a little bit of a casualty to bad coaching. I think that reared its head. Vinny had some of the greatest coaching in the history of coaching at the University of Miami. You know who his offensive coordinator was his rookie year? Mark Trestman. He had Howard Schnellenberger. You know who Howard Schnellenberger was the offensive coordinator for? Joe Namath. I mean, also, you know who else the offensive coordinator was at Miami when I was a freshman? Earl Morrall, MVP, Super Bowl winner. I mean, there were great coaches around him, plus Gary Stevens. Then he goes to the Bucs and he gets shitty coaching. So he was a product, a little bit of that too. Vinny was way better with Parcells in New York. And there's always that around him. So that's how I don't think Vinny could really process the information as well. Like, watch this. Jalen Hurts is nothing near the talent of Testaverde. Not close. Arm talent. None of that. 6'6". None of that. Could throw it on a rope. None of that. However, Jalen's smarter. Jalen sees the game better. Okay? And on top of that, I mean, I've made you the comparison before. Tom Brady's nothing near Aaron Rodgers in skill. He's smarter. Better teammate. Sees the game in the locker room better. Jalen has all that. Okay? So, I mean, all of that is a product of when you're looking at developing a quarterback. Very tough to do. Any college stories on Vinny? Oh, one of the cool ones was with Jerome. Hey, one of the cool ones. I'll finish this up here. One of the cool ones was Testaverde was at the Downtown Athletic Club. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was President Reagan. So I'm sitting at my house in Stanford. My aunt's watching this, and she knows this. I open the front door. There's Jerome Brown, Alonzo Highsmith, Darrell Fullington, and Selwyn Brown. I got 5 black guys in an Italian neighborhood. And I go, it's like 6 o'clock. My grandfather's like, what's going on? What's going on? I go, Jerome's here. My grandfather goes, Jerome Brown? He goes, hey, we're going to take your ass down to Downtown Athletic Club. And I go, now? He goes, yeah. So I get dressed. I go with these guys. Come back. We come back after watching Vinny win the Heisman. Okay. Vinny couldn't come with us. We come back after that, kind of hammered a little bit. Jerome Brown sat there with my grandfather and drank Ballantine beer until 3:30 in the morning and ate every single damn Italian meatball. Alonzo's there. Everyone's there. We sat there. My grandfather, you got to understand something. My grandfather wasn't around a lot of black guys in his life. He looked at me. He goes, "Is this like your locker room?" I go, "Yes." He goes, "Those are great guys." I go, "What'd you think they were?" "Not." He goes, broke his heart when Jerome died. Oh, it was like an epiphany for my Italian folks. It's just like, because when you're not in an environment like that, my grandfather got a taste of being in a locker room, and all of a sudden, he's like, "Wow, these guys are great." I go, "What'd you think they were?" "Not great." He's like, "This is what you got." I go, "It's fun to go and work out and be a Miami Hurricane when you got a guy like that and Alonzo and Jerome. Those guys make life fun. They make life awesome." Jerome expanded my life, made me a better man. Being around him. You know what's funny? Jerome would shit on every single human being that shits on me. Because he used to tell me, have your own opinions. But when you have an opinion, be prepared to have people fire back at you. Now, he wouldn't agree with all my opinions. The guy was my blood brother. Oh, the greatest education I ever had at UM was being in that locker room with all these kids who had no way out. All the kids I played with had no way out. Destitute, moms and dads, mostly single moms. I could talk to you even more, but I can't really, because someone have an ass over some. You know what? Hey, you know why Charlie Strong never got the Gator head coaching job? Why do you think Charlie Strong never got the Gator head coaching job, which he so rightly deserved? Why do you think? You know what the Gator alumni said? You're not going to have a black coach with a white wife walk into a single mom's house and recruit that to go to Florida. Had nothing to do with the character of the man, who I love. Had everything to do with perception. You can't say that on talk shows. That's why he never got the Gator job. He was there 2 stints. He should have got the head coaching job there at Florida. That's why they ran his ass out of Texas quick. Charlie Strong never got a true chance to be and turn that program around. Like Ty Willingham at Notre Dame. He never got – they ran him out of there quick. Enough with that, though, because I don't want to get anybody's panties in a bind. Hey, trust me, life is nothing like our locker room. And I got in trouble because I talk sometimes like when I lived in my locker room with my teammates and my friends and my brothers. And most people in society can't handle it. That's how we talked. "Damn, Sileo, you ain't white. White guys don't run that fast." That's Jerome. Goes, "Man, no time. Dude, you got to be Italian and you got to have some brother in you. Nobody runs a 4.8 at 290. I'm going, dude, shut up. Yeah, man. Great days, great times, wonderful memories. Memories that will last forever. People in Philly think they know Jerome. Only what you read. Only what you read. That's why when Jimmy came on here and said, "Sileo, you were on the edge." Well, the guy I played next to was more on the edge. Taking me to a Klan rally to break it up? Me. Taking me to a Klan. What are we doing here? You know I work for a racist. You know Hugh Culverhouse is a racist. Oh. Jerome goes right over to the Klan guy. Whatever you call them dudes. I'm from New York. I never saw one of them Southern flags. I only saw them in newspapers and like history books. I never saw any of those shit before until I got down there. And then I saw roads that said Redneck Ridge. And I'm like, what's that? Redneck Ridge? You never auctioned that. Okay, you're right. I got called on it. I got a bunch of them too. We're gonna have to auction them hats off and give them to a charity in Philly. We're gonna have to do that. Yeah, Anthony. I only saw him I only saw him in like history books. Anthony, funny, Mississippi State recruited me, and back in the day, they used to have that Confederate flag when they came out of the tunnel. My grandfather looked at me and went like this. Really? I go, not happening. Not happening. I'm not following a flag like that out of a tunnel. Hey, dude, seriously, you want to know why Mississippi State didn't get a lot of kids from the North? Hey, man, they used to have this giant Confederate flag when they came out of the tunnel. And I saw this and I went, not happening. Yeah. Oh, man, not happening. Funny shit. Sills, was it possible that without your Miami brothers playing beside you in the NFL, that your difficult times were compounded without their friendships? Was it possible that without your Miami brothers playing beside you in the NFL? Yes. Yes. Because of the environment and culture? Yes. You had to be there for it, Chris. Chris. My aunt watches this, but those MFers, man, were not accustomed to losing. And they were not going to lose. Because you know what they would say? I'm not going to be a drug dealer at night anymore. And these guys were not going to lose. There was more on the line with them dudes back in the day instead of these suburbanite dudes we have down there now. Saw a guy in Melbourne, Australia wearing a Jerome 99 jersey. Had to have the guy up. Jerome Brown fans in Australia. How awesome is that, Anton? Hey, dude, them guys, man. I'll tell you one guy, only one guy. So Benny Blades, brother, Brian Blades, was all pro with the Lions. Where you going? We just beat FSU. Got to make some money, man. He goes, sell some weed. What? He goes, hey, sorry, white boy. I got to make some money, man. What do you think? I get people sending me money? Nobody sends me money. What do you under some impression here that I got a silver spoon here? I go, Brian. He goes, I'm sorry, Sills. I just get offended and I'm like, I got it. I got your back. You know what the mom did for the Blades brothers? They got 2 girls pregnant in high school. You know what the mom did? Raised the kids. The 2 boys had to make it to the NFL. When they did, bought the mom a house and took the kids. That's the Miami way. We think Charlie Strong in Louisville because he helped turn the program around. He beat the Gators. Oh, that must have tasted so good for him, man. Charlie's good people. Charlie Strong is good people. Charlie Strong is good people, man. Guy like that look you in the face. But you got to remember something about the state of Florida, about some of the kids I was telling you, walking into a single black mom's home. Hey, man, Yeah. I had a guy on my team called Derwin Jones that played next to me. Man, I'll tell you what, between her and Mr. Highsmith, and no shit going. You know what? Hey, Derwin's mom, one last story here. Derwin's mom, he had some deficiencies. And he played with me and Jerome. God rest Derwin's. We called him the Big Cat. Oh, some of you out there probably take that wrong, but that was his nickname. And all of a sudden, Jerome goes like this. Hey, Derwin, is that your mom? I start laughing because she's like, I can't think of that movie. I think it's the movie with the UTEP players when, what's his name, won a national championship at Texas Western. And that guy's mom's walking down the hall. I go, Derwin, is that your mom? And Derwin's mom is walking down. She's walking the middle of the field. And I go, Derwin, I think that's your mother. Because, hey, she goes right up to Jimmy. She's got papers like this. And she's going, he's got 3 deficiencies. He's not playing versus Oklahoma this weekend unless he gets this shit up. He's not going to be the only dumbass in our family. Do you want? And Jerome starts. I go like, this is the middle of our practice warm-ups, and I'm going, holy shit. He's not playing. Jimmy had to take her off. Butch had to take her, and Dave. As Dave will tell you, he'll never play. He's not playing. And we're like, oh, oh man, dude! Jerome starts laughing. Hey, Derwin, is that your mom? We all look up and go, "That's your mom, Derwin. What's your mom coming, man? She's this big old lady with the hat on and the whole thing, like Pearl Bailey. She's walking down the. I go, Derwin, that's your mother, man. Oh man, good stuff, man. Let me finish the list up. We got NFL news. My boy Jason Cole is going to join us in this hour coming up to at 5:30 Eastern. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm Managing Director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
National Football Show. Appreciate you coming aboard. I want to finish up this list, by the way, also. I got sidetracked with my BS. I got sidetracked there, man. Isn't it funny, though, at the NFL owner meetings? They love when a player and you know what? I got to make sure I don't do this and it comes off racist. They got to make sure all their players are all in line with the Patrick Mahomes contract. Team friendly. All us workers here, me included, as long as we're good guys, follow the line, follow the company policy, we're good guys. Pats on the back, team-friendly deal, everything's good. We follow like we're the workers. Whatever you want, sir. All of us NFL players, we'll follow whatever you want. You want a team-friendly deal? We'll give you the money, but you got to give us a team-friendly deal, son. Yes, sir. Guy like Lamar Jackson, though, fighting for guaranteed contracts. Funny, they hate the Deshaun Watson deal because they lose control of the player. Like the NBA's lost control of their players. You see, the NBA has true business partners with the players. The networks are the NFL's partners. That ain't, we're not business partners. Shit, we signed a deal with that knee-walking D. Smith, the executive director of the NFL Players Association. And he goes, no problem, rip the deal up that Gene Upshaw put down so that the owners can make more money on the TV. Not even negotiated, just ripped up. And look at him now using all the media stiffs to talk shit on Lamar and Deshaun. I get that, Sean. Can you imagine if you had nothing on that guy, Deshaun Watson? You'd just be ripping him because of his. You'd still be ripping him because of his contract. People are ripping him more now for the contract than what he did in behavior. That just shows you where the NFL and the NFL fans are today. Shit, man, more people. Get this. This has to tell you more about the owners than anything in your life. The NFL owners are more pissed off at Deshaun Watson's contract than they are his behavior. This guy's got 25 and maybe north of sexual assault allegations. That don't bother the NFL owners. Okay? That don't bother the NFL owners. But that guaranteed contract bugs them more. Think about it. Deshaun Watson's contract bugs the owners more than his behavior. Hey, sexually assaulted 25? I'll give him a raise and guarantee his money. NFL owners go, wait a minute. And so what are they doing? They're colluding in Phoenix, sitting around the Pope's table going, hey, Jimmy, we're going to allow one. But the rest of us, you got to bring these salaries down in free agency. Remember, they're workers. The NFL owners' meetings, just in the visual, is collusion. Putting the owners in the same room to talk about contracts, and then they throw you out, you can have a zero number. They talk to us like children. And they talk to you even more so, the fans, like you're watching WWE. They don't give a shit about Sean Watson maybe raping a woman. They care his contract's guaranteed. Doesn't that tell you all you need to know about the type of people you're dealing with? They're not trustworthy. They lie to you. But by the way, Jeffrey Lurie, I'm not saying things like that, but the league's actions as a group are that. 32 owners are more upset with the contract of Watson because it affects Baltimore, the Chargers, Cincinnati, and Philly. And all those owners are doing this. Well, Jalen, you know I can't give you a guaranteed contract. What is the reason for that? And do you know what they do? They lie to you and go, Jalen, here's a 7-year contract. Knowing full well 95% of those deals never go to conclusion. And so the fans are out there going, we got Jalen locked up for 7. Locked up? That guy could cut you tomorrow, take a $38 million hit against his cap and not think anything of it. Because why? Jerry Jones went just like this, ripped up the CBA so you could defer that money out. So guess what? You don't get killed on the cap anymore. Here's your zero number. Here's your zero number. The NFL controls you with no guaranteed contracts. And the media is okay with that. Tagovailoa gets killed on the field. He has no guaranteed contract. Oh, but the insurance will pay for it. Oh. But not his medical care. So like right now, if Tua doesn't get killed on the field, he's got 5 years after he's done playing and all his head trauma, or having somebody like Junior Seau put a shotgun to his chest. The league's not responsible for that. Or Andre Waters, or Dave Dorson, or Terry Long, or Mike Webster. They're not responsible for any of that. Man, it's actually almost filthy. It's actually almost filthy. Jam goes, you can fault the owners for doing what owners do. The real tragedy is that in 50 years, the players haven't accumulated enough money to protect each other and put $1 trillion fund. True. Because you know what they do? They protect the current, forget the past. You see, what happens is the players of today, they look at the money they're making today, like I did back in the day. Hey, here's what you do. You're right, JM. I made $250,000 in 1987. That's what kind of Jerome made. We signed almost the same deal. My legendary Hall of Fame uncle made, I think, the most, $13,000 a year. And he's an 8-time Pro Bowler and an MVP of the league. My signing bonus was like $500,000, $450, some shit like that. This is 87. And he goes, I had to make $200,000 my entire career. But what happens is you get snowed by the present. And all of a sudden, when you're not playing, you hear Barry Brooks go like this. Yeah, man, 5 years after I'm done playing, I had to pay my own medical. Not Roger Goodell, though. He's all taken care of, he and his family. He's all good today. Yeah, I don't think that's 750. Oh, my base, yeah, my base is probably that. But look at the money, base salary today. Shit, I'd be a Howie 1-year deal, dude. Yeah, 750. I'm right in Howie's wheelhouse. I'm right in Howie's wheelhouse at 750, man. Shit. Yeah. 70 million. Hey, 70 million. Hey, you know what? I want to finish this thing here because I didn't finish the top 3, okay? Then I want to reset here a little bit. Then I want to go into a little bit more in what the Eagles are doing free agency. I think it's pretty smart what Howie's doing right now. He sees, hey, guys, this draft ain't that hot. There's some skill. The first round looks great. But this draft ain't that hot. Okay? We went like this. And what I did was, in case some of you are tuning in now, I went from the worst to the first positions in the upcoming draft in April in 28 days. The worst position group was safeties. Second worst was linebackers, the defensive tackles, interior O-line, center guard. Again, this means there's not a big pool of players at the position where you would look and go, well, I'm going to draft a guy in the 3rd round. There's not a bunch of these guys. Many of these positions, outside of the first 3 guys, it drops off significantly. Running backs are at 7. Tight ends are at 6. You're starting to get into a better grouping now. Wide receivers are 5. Pretty good group. There's some players you can get in rounds 2, 3, maybe to replace Quez. Quarterbacks are ranked 4th. The best grouping in the NFL for signing people. 4 guys will go in the top 10 picks. And the 4th rated group of quarterbacks, or the quarterbacks are the 4th rated group going into the draft. You talk about overdrafting. Every player that's a quarterback this year will be overdrafted. C.J. Stroud, Will Levis. If Bryce Young had C.J. Stroud's size, he'd be the first player taken, and it would not be even a debate. He's a little dude. I think the holder on the Eagles is bigger. Anthony Richardson. Okay. Here are your top 3 positions in the draft in April. Zach Wilson. Was he the 2nd pick in the draft? I mean, Trey Lance. Look at these bums. Look at the equity you traded. Look at the equity the Jets traded and the 49ers traded to get 2 of the biggest stiffs in history. I mean, look, I talk about Jordan Davis. Okay? 13th pick. Should have got him at 22. That's a far cry from Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's a bum. And get this, the Jets are treating him as such. He's never even brought up that you'd have to kiss his ass again. I think the Jets would go out and sign some stiff quarterback and put him in there ahead of him. You know why? Nobody on that Jets team respects him. Can you imagine that? I mean, if they don't respect you, you better be great. But in New York, he sucks and no one respects him. Why are you on the roster? Oh, you're on the roster because you were the 2nd pick overall. BYU used to be, Jameson, a quarterback factory. They did. Sue says that Zach did that to himself. No. This guy couldn't beat Coastal Carolina or Utah. Tyler Huntley's a better player than Zach Wilson. When you watch that guy play, he couldn't beat Coastal Carolina. I mean, it wasn't even a game. And you're like, dude, Coastal Carolina, and you're the 2nd freaking pick? I don't know. And you're like an independent playing Mountain West teams. Then I started thinking about Mountain West. People start digging into Mountain West. You're like, well, Josh Allen came out of there. Josh Allen was at Wyoming with some of the worst coaching on the planet. Now he gets good coaching. He's a star. Maurice Sills, was Kevin Fagan worth the 13th pick? Well, you must not know the history. I sat right next to him. Kevin Fagan was going to be the 5th pick in the NFL draft. In his final game in the Sugar Bowl, he blew his knee out. That's why I left college early too. Okay, I suppose it had another year of eligibility. Why do you think I went in a supplemental draft? I came out early. I didn't stay my full time in college. I came out a year early. Dumb move. It's kind of forced on me, but I had another year eligibility. Today's college football, you can go anywhere now. It's all good. Nobody cares. He blew his knee out. He would have been the 5th pick. And Kevin won 2 Super Bowls and made the All-Madden team. So Kevin was a great player. Offensive tackles are ranked 3rd. Eagles could take a guy here. Wright, Johnson, Jones, some of these kids that are in there. The OTs look pretty good. Here are who do you think are the top 2 positions in the upcoming NFL draft? Top 2 positions that are going into the April draft. Top 2 positions. Okay, top 2. Number 2, edge rushers. The draft is packed with them. Okay? The draft is packed with them. There's a ton of kids in here that I think Howie's probably going to take one of these guys, 2, 3, depending on how many draft choices he trades for. But he's going to take a couple edge rushers to improve the pass rushing. DT's weak. Interior's weak. Okay? It's weak. But edge rushers. And the number 1 position heading into the NFL draft in 28 days is corner. There are a shitload of corners in this draft, and it is rated as good a draft as they have had in a long time at corner. You could get a great player in the 3rd round. So don't fret if they don't get their corner at 10 or 30. They may get him in the 2nd or 3rd round. Cornerback is the best position in this upcoming draft. Corner and edge. And to replace, look, this is what you could do. You could draft a guy in the 2nd or 3rd round. If you're Philly, heir apparent to Slay. Have that guy ready. He's on a rookie deal. Cut Slay's ass. Get him out of there. Slay knows this is coming. Slay ain't playing 3 years here. 3 years. 35-year-old corner. Yeah, that works. At $15 million. What are you, nuts? How he's going to cut bait on that big time. That's why the money up front came. The money up front came this year so they could cut him next year and loosen the cap hit when they cut his ass next year. Okay? You can cut loose of this dude. Have a guy waiting in the wings. You got Bradbury and this new dude, whoever he is. There's your corners. You may get 2 corners in this draft and have the apparent replacement for Bradbury so that when you pay your quarterback and next March, when that $50 million kicks in, cut bait on both corners. I doubt you do that, but Bradbury would probably be the following year. He'd probably be the following year. So the corners are deep. Edge rushing's deep. And got to replace Graham. Why not go into the draft and get an edge rusher? You got Josh Sweat in the 4th. Like I said, the Eagles are not bad in latter rounds. Okay? So here's how I do it. I'd get out of 10. I'd get out of 10. Trade down. get a corner. The DT position sucks unless you're getting Breezy or Carter, but Breezy even. Does that do a lot for you? Shit, man. I like what they did today with the guy they signed. That makes more sense to me than signing Miles Murphy with a 1. Miles Murphy, you're going to take a gamble that Miles Murphy pans out. Okay? When you're not very good drafting on defense, especially edge rushers. Howie's got it. 2 guys right in 15 years. Sweat and Brandon Graham. Rest of them, Derek Barnett. How that guy's going into his 7th year on Philadelphia is remarkable. This guy's got more penalties than sacks. It's remarkable. I mean, I'd take that 10th pick, or do this. I'd take the 10th pick, move down to 15, get multiple picks, trade the 30th into the top of the 2nd round, get my edge rusher up there. Okay? And maybe someone falls out of the 1st round. Someone that's rated high. I would say this to you. If I had to say, Sills, out of 300, 330 some guys that get drafted every year? Is that the number? Something like that? Or is it 204? Whatever. I'd say out of the 7 rounds, I'd say this draft probably has 50, between 45 and 50 really good players in it, and the rest of them are projects. It's not a very good draft. Okay, I probably between 45 and 50. Somewhere in there. That there's after like 50 players, then it's a crapshoot. Then it's like stocks. Maybe you hit, maybe you don't. Okay? But if it's me, I stay in the Southeastern Conference, and I stay at schools that have produced if I'm Howie. Here are the schools. Oregon. I'll go west to east. Oregon. Southern Cal. I don't know. I mean, Southern Cal, what have they been producing? Nothing. I'm sticking with Oregon. Oregon, Washington, Utah. TCU coming east. OU. Michigan, Iowa, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina. That's it. Not going to North Dakota State. North Dakota State. What in the world were you? What are you doing there? Seriously, if I'm in North Dakota State, I'm lost. Dude, if I'm in North Dakota State, I'm lost. I'm not looking for a football player there. Now, look, some of you will go, well, Sills, you missed on all them other guys then. If you miss on guys like, you miss on dudes like Jerry Rice. Yeah, well, that's okay. I'll stay in the SEC. I'll be all right in the SEC. Okay? You're trying to limit as much damage as you can in the draft. So what's that mean? Howie's got 6 picks right now. He's got to get as many picks as he possibly can. Okay? He's got to get as many picks as he can because what you're trying to do is eliminate failure. Man, trying to eliminate failure here. All right. My God, the NFL news. I mean, I love the owners, man. I mean, it's really. And before I bring Jason Cole in here, I want to say one more time about the character of the league and watching these owners parade around in Phoenix like they're actually doing something. They give the players, hey, you get to wear the number 0 instead of full benefits. Okay. The number 0. And get this, like I said to you before, the owners are more pissed off with Deshaun Watson's guaranteed contract than they are with the sexual allegations against him because they gave him a raise and guaranteed his money. You could come up with any other way you want to look at that. The NFL owners are okay with his behavior. They cleared him. But now you hear everybody bitching about his guaranteed contract. And now they're colluding against Lamar because they don't want other guarantees. That's the control of the players they have. Remember something. One more time, the NFL partners are not the players. It's the networks. Let's bring Jason Cole in here. Hey, Jason, get this 0 number now, man. I mean, thorough and all that, man. I'm ready to rock, man.
You have freedom. You total freedom. Total freedom as a player to wear the number 0. Especially if your like name starts with an O. It's so important. If you're like Oscar or Orlando. You know, if you're Orlando Brown
right now, Jason.
Orlando Brown now.
Okay.
Can be himself. Can truly express himself as a player because he can wear 0. What about 00? Can you wear 00?
I don't know about that. That's Jim Otto's number. No,
right. Could you be Jim Otto? Could you be 00 Jim Otto?
See, I think the 00s would not be good on me, so I'm.
No, it's not good on you. It's not good on me either. Like, I tried to wear 11. Okay, try and make it look slim.
Try to make me look a little thinner. Maybe I like to get the Michael Parsons look. I never thought that before, man. That make me look a little thinner.
7, narrow numbers. Numbers. I want narrow numbers.
Hey, Jace, why are the owners making such a statement about the guaranteed contract on Deshaun Watson? I mean, come on, man. Really?
Look, they don't like guaranteed contracts to begin with. It doesn't really matter, to be quite honest, because they already have control of how much money. It's, you know, this is essentially a hard cap. But, you know, so they really don't. They really shouldn't care as much as they do. They did care about it with Deshaun Watson because it was a bad statement. It was a bad statement rewarding a player for bad behavior and rewarding a player who had embarrassed the league for a long period of time. And it smacked of desperation because, frankly, Cleveland had to pay him the guarantee to get him to play there, which, if you're Cleveland, Jimmy Haslam, that's a mistake. You should want guys to come play for your team because they want to be great and they're motivated by that. Yes, money is an important motivation, but you shouldn't have to guarantee $200 million to a guy to make him play in your city. If you're doing that, that's not going to be enough to make him want to really be part of your organization and part of your community. To the extent that he can and repair his image. Like, it just doesn't work that way. That was a mistake. But when it comes to Lamar Jackson, I don't see collusion the same way that everybody else does. Yes, I see Steve Bisciotti upset that there is a fully guaranteed contract that's making it a problem for him to get a deal done with Lamar Jackson. But I really think this is more of an analytics issue, that the style of play, and Arthur Blank alluded to this, didn't explain it very well, but alluded to this, and it's important. Look, if you play that way, you're not going to last a long time in this league. There's one guy who's lasted played more than 5 seasons and rushed for 100 times or more in more than 5 seasons. Okay, that's Cam Newton. And by the end, Cam Newton's pretty much done.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's physically kind of shot. I mean, I know he says he can still play, but we saw what he was by the end. His body's beat up, and that's a big dude. Like
6'6". Jace, I saw that guy at a Super Bowl. I thought he was a tight end.
Right. I mean, he's a big man. Like, he's a problem to tackle. But even guys like that, they get hit. Your quarterback shouldn't get hit that much. Much as when you rush that many times. Lamar Jackson has 5 seasons with 100 or more. He's already tied with Michael Vick for the second most of any quarterback. And just as to make people aware, Josh Allen is right behind at 4 seasons. Okay, he's running a lot and probably too much for his own good. But when you talk about Lamar Jackson, you say, how long do you think this guy's career is going to be playing at this level? Yes, he's a great player. He's really fascinating. He's really interesting. He's exciting. He makes the Ravens a contender for the playoffs, not necessarily for the Super Bowl. We've had that discussion before because he's not a great passer. But he certainly is a great player, worthy of being signed to a really good contract. Is it $200 million? It ain't me. If I'm the GM, I'm sorry. I just look at him and say, I'll pay you for 3 years at a premium deal. I'll give you a 3-year deal for $120 million if you want, Lamar, and you can hit the market again. But I'm not giving you $200 million because you're not going to be here for the end of that deal, in all likelihood.
Jason, then if we're going down this road with an MVP who's 25 years old.
He was an MVP 4 years ago.
But he's still 25.
I understand that, but
okay,
there's no clock on the amount of damage that your body takes when you play that way.
All what you just said then, why should the Eagles then dump $50 million into the same process that you're watching in Baltimore? And by the way, Ozzie Newsome is still the executive to Steve Biscotti. And for them to go, let's put the transfer tag on him, the whatever that thing is, where you have to give 2 ones up. For them to go like this, our starting price is $36 million. Why should the Eagles then go down the same road when you got a guy who's more accomplished?
Well, because you're 2 years earlier. If I'm going to sign Jalen Hurts, right, and this is the difference in strategy, because you're at the end of year 3. I would rather sign Jalen Hurts to a big contract today to pay him for 5 years, because I think that 8-year period of time is about as much as I'm going to get. And here's the other part of that. Jalen Hurts, I think, has a better ability to, over that next 5 years, to maybe transition to being more of a pocket guy. And to say, okay, I know that he's not going to play this way after 6, 7, 8 years. Can he become the pocket guy we're talking about? But I would rather pay for these years now, get an additional 3 years on the contract, actually 4 years on the contract, because he's a free agent after 4 years, right? I'd rather pay for it now and have that sunk cost than to delay it out, where then I'm paying for even more at the back end of the contract. It's sort of like the NBA. You've seen all those big bloated back end NBA contracts, right? Where guys were, at 36 and 37 and they were making $30 and $40 million because they'd signed like 7, 8 year deals when they were 29, 30 years old, right? Well, that became a problem in the NBA. They had to get rid of that, and they've done a lot for that. The same thing applies in football, but the clock starts earlier, especially when you get hit that much. So pay the guy now, pay him through 8 years, and then you reassess as you get closer to free agency where he is at the end of that contract.
So you see him morphing into being something more like a Russell Wilson than a Michael.
Maybe. I said I don't know that for sure. I'm saying And I would pay for the right to see what he becomes. Okay, because he's done enough that I know he can play this way, and I can be successful with him this way, right? I don't know what he's going to be down the line, but I've seen enough from him that I think he has a better chance to be a pocket quarterback than Lamar. Lamar, I don't think can be a pocket quarterback. And based on the way that he throws and what he does, he's just not that kind of guy. Jalen, think better chance. Yes, maybe he becomes more like Russell Wilson, and I morph my offense over time. But pay him now, and then I'll reassess later on.
Are you in this camp with me here on this with Kyle Shanahan? I think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch build a really great roster. But I wanted to throw this at you here. His history going back to Washington when he was the OC there. RG3 destroyed. Garoppolo hurt. Trey Lance hurt. Brock Purdy hurt. This guy doesn't protect his quarterbacks.
Well, some of it's true and some of it's not. There's a couple of things there. Obviously in Philadelphia, you saw them trying to block with tight ends against edge pass rushers, right?
Yeah,
that's a gigantic mistake. Okay, it's one that you occasionally take, but you shouldn't do on a regular basis, and they did it at least 3 times and got crushed as a result of it. The Trey Lance injury was more of a chance. He got tackled, got rolled up on a run. That's just the way that kid has to play. The Jimmy Garoppolo one is a missed assignment, but it's a missed assignment by a running back. So you're like sitting there going, you're putting a lot of undue pressure on some guys. I think it's reasonable to ask the question, especially if you're the owner of the team. But the other side of this is that guy's a really great coach. And I say he's a really great offensive mind. And they've put together a really great roster. So it's not like I want to push Kyle Shanahan out the door, but I want to ask, is there something we can do differently, especially if you're going to ask me to invest in this position at some point in time? And how much should I invest in this position? Is there something that needs to be fixed? I think it deserves analysis. And in fact, I asked that question after the season. Kyle didn't like the question, but it's a fair question. It just is. I think the bigger thing about the Shanahans, and both Shanahans qualify this way, is they have the greatest wandering eye for quarterbacks I have ever seen in my life. Like you would think that Sam Darnold was in a bikini all of a sudden, right? Like showing himself off, right? And was the hottest woman on the beach, right? Like Sam Darnold has this great skill. Like what? Come on, Kyle. We all saw that. Yeah, there are skills that he had when he was in college that were interesting. They have not shown up in the pros. Okay. And I get it. You're trying to set it up so that you can make a move to trade Trey Lance at some point in time. But don't try and sell me on Sam Darnold at this point.
I know. I got this. Let me ask you one last thing on the Niners here, though. Jimmy Garoppolo's time in the Super Bowl era, is he the third best quarterback to play in that franchise? 38-17.
John
55
Brody?
out of 57.
Let's not wait a second. Steve Young, Joe Montana, John Brody, Y.A. Tittle.
Super Bowl era. Well, he
Super
was there
Bowl
70,
era, okay.
71.
Yeah, Brody was
68% completion percentage, 14,000 yards, an NFC title. Went further than any of those other guys.
Brody was a better player, but when you do the comparison and analysis of eras,
it's a pretty successful stint there for him.
Look, Jimmy Garoppolo held up his end of the bargain. No one in San Francisco should complain ever, and they don't. Okay,
they don't.
They don't complain about Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay, but you also have to know what the limitations are of Jimmy Garoppolo. And let me just tell you a story that a couple of coaches told me on that staff. Jimmy's just a mimbo, okay? He is not the brightest bulb, okay? Great guy, will play his guts out, give you everything he possibly can. but just not like electric upstairs. Okay. So there were a number of times that he would call play in the huddle. They would get to the line of scrimmage and he would forget like to do the signal for the motion. Right. And the wide receiver is like standing there, like looking, going, when am I supposed to go in motion? And he'd just do stuff like that. Right. Like, and that's just like, that's how he is, right? He's a kind of a brain dead heaver. I mean, he's a good guy and he's not, I'm not saying he's stupid, but the details sometimes escape him. And there are a lot of guys out there.
Smart, Jason, is football stupid. I mean,
right. Like, yeah, I'm not saying he's a dumb guy by any stretch, but sometimes you just forget there's a lot going on. And
it's called processing. I tell everyone that Testaverde, Jalen Hurts processes the game quicker. Vinny couldn't. And whatever you want to assess from that, Vinny still threw for 50,000 yards. But he couldn't. But he couldn't process the game. Like Joe.
Look, when you watch Dan Marino or Joe Montana or Peyton Manning or Elway or Brady, when they look at the field, they give it one glance, they know where everything is.
Yep.
And they know where everything is supposed to be. And the more advanced, they know where it's going to be after the snap, right? That's the process of playing football. Some guys can do that like this because it happens so fast. And some guys, they get to the line and it's like,
what's the play?
Well, they're like, look, you can see it in their minds. They're like,
where do I line up?
Where is everybody? Okay. Well, you're like, and there are a lot of guys who are in between, right? Like Mark Sanchez is as talented a guy as I've seen out there, right? I mean, physically talented guy, right? Not a schmuck. He wasn't a schmuck or anything like that. But he couldn't see all the defenders. He couldn't remember where they were in his brain. And so when you saw him throw interceptions, it was like always, okay, you didn't see that guy on the vice, on the top, coming down on the vice, or you didn't see the guy who was about to drop underneath because you forgot where the hat was. You forgot where, the numbers were. Right. And you just see that all the time from Mark Sanchez. It wasn't that he was throwing into gutsy double coverages and taking chances. It was he simply forgot where the defenders were. Jimmy Garoppolo has a little bit of that. And that's why Kyle Shanahan couldn't do it with him anymore. On top of the injuries. The injuries are a huge problem, but the forgetting what the play is. And that's what Brock Purdy. You talk about processors. My God, that kid is an amazing processor. He's just limited physically. Now, if you could take Brock Purdy's brain and put it on Jimmy Garoppolo,
I think Brock Purdy,
you got a Hall of Famer.
Okay, yeah. I got another question here for you. So the Jets have the longest playoff drought of any of the four major sports in North America. It's 12 years. And do you want to hear the last 7 years? They have finished in last place. This Aaron Rodgers saga with Bob Marley Rodgers, or whatever you want to call him here, whatever, in the pot hut. When do we see the puff of smoke telling us that this saga's over and we have a new pope in New York?
Sometime before the draft. As much as we're all eager to see this happen, there's deadlines, and people don't until the deadlines because they're working people for as much as they can get. So the first kind of deadline is the draft, because the Packers are going to want the picks this year and they're going to want to use them, right? So that's what it is. And they're not in the offseason program yet. So who cares, right? And it's not like he doesn't know the offense. They're putting in his offense and with a lot of his guys. So he didn't have a whole lot of learning to do. The rest of the team has the learning to do in terms of that. Now, the offseason program is the next deadline if they don't get it done by the draft. But to me, it's just the draft or when the Jets capitulate and give the Packers exactly what they want, or the Packers capitulate and they give the Jets what they want. Again, there's no urgency for it to happen today.
Okay, finally. I got Jared Bell. I got Rick Oslin.
Uh-huh.
And I hope to get you. Got to make a pitch to at least listen to the case of Eric Allen.
Yeah.
Got it. I mean, is it
I would
fair?
love to have Eric Allen in the room. I think we've had him in once. And was it one time that we had Eric Allen in, or was it? I'm trying to remember whether it was him or was the safety. I get those. No, look, I would love to have him. There are a lot of guys who you say he deserves a good, thorough vetting, a good, thorough discussion.
All I'm asking, Jason,
at the very, I'm completely on board with that. We're talking about 55 interceptions,
Yeah.
A really good number, was the Pro Bowls are at something like 4 to 7, or I can't remember exactly.
I think it's 5.
I know, somewhere in that range. I've looked at it, right? And
yeah,
I
mean, Leroy Butler. I mean, we can look at Eric Allen. I think. And listen, all I ask those guys,
those are different position guys.
I get it. All I'm asking though is you got to have a conversation about the guy because I think he's worthy of it.
Absolutely, I absolutely 100% agree with that, and I hope he gets in the room.
Okay,
it's how does it happen?
Well, the Hall of Fame asked me because you know what? I'm going to text you because I don't want because I asked and what the process would be, and I don't want to say too much because it's not because I don't want to put you guys in the lurch where you have to do something.
Well, and the other thing about it is, there's a lot of guys,
yes,
who want to be discussed. A lot of guys who believe they should be in. It's hard. It's hard to say because you have to, at a certain point, you do have to say no. We had a discussion amongst ourselves about how do we increase the number of guys getting in with all the first ballot guys, and I was like, well, wait a second. We don't want to increase the number of guys getting in.
No,
you
should increase the number, Jason, of the guys you talk about, though. Jason, I'm starting to think.
I would agree. I agree with that. We have this discussion all the time because we got a lot of people who are fighting really hard to get guys in who deserve to get in, and they have to wait, and that's hard. But at the same time, this should be very exclusive. Not Dion exclusive, not what he's talking about. I think that takes it too far when he said, "Oh, there should be a separate wing for the first time guys." And sorry, Dion. Yeah, we're not putting you in the special kids club, okay?
Not everybody's Babe Ruth either, Dion. Too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. We're not doing that, okay? But it's special enough that only 300 something guys have gotten in, and only certain. Frankly, we're putting a lot of guys in the senior process, which I disagree with. Okay, I know I'm alone in that one.
No. You know what? I told Rick Gosselin. I said, Rick, if you debated for 25 years or 20 years on a guy, how in the 21st year does that guy turn into a Hall of Famer? I mean, you had 20 opportunities to say no about the guy, and what is this? Then it turns into a sentimental. Look here, Chuck Howley.
We've had that come up.
How does Chuck Howley? I mean, Chuck Howley, I get MVP, Super Bowl. You look at his Pro Bowls. I was actually kind of shocked how many Pro Bowls he's been on, but I'm like,
but he was in Pro Bowls when the NFL was 14 teams.
I'm like, Chuck Howley.
Chuck, he was a really terrific player, and again, there's a case for a lot of these guys. And I know I'm going to infuriate some Eagles fans when I say this. I was not big on Harold Carmichael. Okay. And that's probably going to piss off.
Why, Jace? Why not?
Because when I remember Harold Carmichael's career, I don't remember electric moments, and I don't remember. I remember some long streaks, of catch per game. I just don't remember him being a dominant player. Now that's my childhood, and so that's not sophisticated, right? But when we put in this blue ribbon group, when Harold went in with 20 guys. I was like, I looked at that and I said, aren't we kind of devaluing
totally
how special it is?
Absolutely.
And maybe Harold would have survived anyways if I had heard the process the right way. But I'm like, look, it needs to be exclusive. it needs to be taken good care of. And it needs to, make sure that the guys who are getting in are truly deserving. And yes, there are good arguments about, hey, the process was not as sophisticated 15, 20, 25 years ago, and guys got overlooked. I understand that. But that doesn't mean we go the other direction and just let in a bunch of guys to make up for what happened 20 years
Do
ago.
you think it's harder to get in front of you guys now than it is to actually vote on the guys?
No, I think the process has been consistent in the 11 years I've done it. And look, everybody's got their advocates, and who are saying, that you
No,
should
just
look
so
at this
some
guy.
don't know, the local NFL writer there is the guy like Nick Canepa in San Diego used to be the guy.
Yeah, Paul
that was the Hall
Domwich
of Fame voter.
does it in Philadelphia. Paul does a great job.
So those guys all have to put out there. So it's really Paul's response, from what I understand from the NFL Hall of Fame. He's got to make the pitch for Eric Allen.
Well, at the meeting, he makes the 5-minute introduction pitch. There are always a lot of advocates, before we even get into the 15. It goes from like 150, 125 guys, and we whittle it down to 25. Then from the 25, we whittle it down to 15, right? And so it's a difficult to winnow those guys down. And obviously the politicking, the PR starts pretty early for a lot of guys to push. Okay, get this guy to the 25, and then let's get him to the 15. And people reach out, or they send emails, or they send videos. There's all sorts of things that happen along the way that people come up with, and then you finally get to the 15, and then it gets really serious. Teams start sending out brochures and information, and all sorts of platitudes about guys, and you read as much of it as you possibly can. I'd read probably 90-95% of it. There's some of the stuff I miss, or some of the stuff that like, if you keep telling me that this guy changed the game, there's a certain point where I just go, I turn off to that. Like,
When you know a guy that changed the game, when you don't have to say the guy changed the game.
You're right. Like people were like,
when you go Reggie White, you're like, dude, you don't need a pitch.
No, well, I mean, like they throw it out for, and look, I love Rondé Barber, and he deserved to get in the Hall of Fame. And, but somebody made the comment, Rondé Barber changed the game. I'm like, no, Rondé didn't change the game. He was really great at being a nickel corner, okay? And he was maybe the best nickel corner of his era. But that's not changing the game. When you change the game is when you put guys in the slot for the first time, or you change roster size. Like, those things change the game. Or you have Lawrence Taylor, who is completely unblockable by any normal human being. And everybody's sitting there going, what do we do? Okay, we better go put 2 guys on him every single play. And sometimes a third guy better be aware of where he is, or he's literally going to kill our quarterback, right? That Reggie White, how do I stop that hump move? Okay, like, good luck, right? Like, yeah, there's, in the history of the game, there's 20, 30 guys over 100 years who do something that changed the game. Okay, there aren't a bunch at any one given time. It doesn't exist.
Absolutely, Jace. Jace, I love talking to you about this. You know how much I think of you when you talk about Hall of Fame, because you're a steward of the game and you're a protector of the game, and especially the men that go into that place. I appreciate you doing this, brother. Thank you so much once again, as you always do for me. Thank you so much, my friend.
Okay, and remember, Lamar Jackson changed the game.
Yeah, he may if you get that guaranteed contract.
That's true. That is absolutely true.
Thank
I'll see you,
Jason.
dude. Be good.
Appreciate it, brother. That's my friend Jason Cole, man. He's a NFL insider plus a Pro Football Hall of Fame. See, guys, Big Sills is pushing for Eric Allen. The guy in Phillies, from what I understand, the guy in Philadelphia's got to make the pitch. He's got to make the pitch. The guy who is the NFL Hall of Fame voter. If he don't do it, other people have other players in other markets that Like the guy in Los Angeles is now trying to push for Leslie O'Neal. So you got to have that guy. You got to petition that guy to push for Eric Allen more and then get the Eagles behind it, because that's the only way that guy's going to get in front of those guys. And I've got 5 or 6 guys that will debate him. But the guy in Philly's got to do it. Okay? That guy's not bringing it home in Philly for Eric Allen. He's not selling it. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jace. Thank you, guys. I appreciate everything you guys do. Please hit the like button. Thank you. Xander, Big Joe, Tone, spectacular stuff as always. Thank you. Till tomorrow, 3 to 6 Eastern. We'll see you on the flip side.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.